new drinks are now at McDonald's. With refreshers like the Strawberry Watermelon Refresher and the Mango Pineapple Refresher with popping boba. To crafted sodas like the Sprite Berry Blast with berry flavors and cold foam. Who knew ice cold drinks could be so fire? Try them all now at McDonald's.
Refreshers contain caffeine. Copyright 2026, The Coca-Cola Company. Sprite is a registered trademark of The Coca-Cola Company.
Ready to soundtrack your summer? With Red Bull Summer All Day Play, you choose a playlist that fits your summer vibe the best. Are you a festival fanatic, a deep end DJ, a road dog, or a trail mixer? Just add a song to your chosen playlist and put your summer on track. Red Bull Summer All Day Play. Red Bull gives you wings. Visit redbull.com/brightsummer ahead to learn more. See you this summer.
And action! Hello and welcome to episode 393 of the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk
filmmaking.
From indie film to studio films to high-end TV and
everything in between.
How to get them made. Why have we turned like 1920s newsreader? How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to.
Riley F them up.
In our very, 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 very
humble BBC opinions.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Filmmakers Podcast. I am Giles Alderson.
Writer, director, and producer.
And you are Tom Lemoir.
Writer, director, and producer.
We had a chat about that beforehand, that we keep saying the same thing.
But then we re-recorded it, so you missed out on that joke.
Missed out on that one. But
we're the same thing, basically.
But the reason why we were doing the BBC intro for Newsnight there is because we have a scoop for you. We have a scoop for you. And they don't actually talk like that on BBC Newsnight, not since...
No, they don't. Yeah,
not
sorry,
for
BBC.
a long time, sorry. Sorry, anyone from the royal family. But this is a scoop because we have Netflix's scoop on the podcast. We have the team.
A scoop the loop.
A scoop, boo doop, boo doop. We have director Philip Martin. We have the writer and novelist and the lady who found the idea.
Journalist extraordinaire,
Samantha McAlister. And we also have the actors Rufus, Sewell and Keeley, Hawes. Dom Lemoir sat down with all four of them and had an amazing time.
They also had an amazing time.
Yeah, they would have had a better time. What's the scoop, Dom? What's the skinny? What's the lowdown? Did you get under the skin? Did you find out home truths and think about maybe turning that into a documentary?
Yes,
Great,
very much so.
Great.
Well, it's a difficult one to. It wasn't difficult. It was.
It was a really difficult one.
It was it wasn't. It was difficult. It was a difficult one to approach because you're sort of trying to get to the figure out all the filmmaking thing, but then there's this real life story which has all these connotations and ideas behind it, and everyone has an opinion on that. But really we're trying to get to how which is what Scoop was trying to do, how you try to make something that has all of the facts as neutrally as possible, but lets the audience sort of decide and make their own opinions up. And it's a really difficult thing to figure out. And it was also a very interesting thing to figure out, and sort of how to put across all the nuances without making too much of a decision for the audience. And so it was really fascinating.
Yeah, I imagine. And so for those of you who don't know, Scoop is the new Netflix film which tells the behind-the-scenes story of Prince Andrew's infamous BBC Newsnight interview, which is based on the book by former Newsnight booker Sam McAlister. And the film stars Gillian Anderson as Emily Matis, Rufus Sewell as the Duke of York, as Prince Andrew, We'll come back to him in a minute because it's stunning. Keeley Hawes as Amanda Thirsk, which is the PA's aide, Prince Andrew's aide, and Billie Piper, who's always amazing, playing Sam, the role of Sam McAlister as well. It's just incredible. Philip Martin, who directed this, is obviously royal pedigree because he directed The Crown, and it's also written by Peter Moffat and George Bussettil, which again they're both adapted along with Sam from her book. It's out now on Netflix. Should we talk about, before we decide which of the four to go for first, let's just talk a little bit about Rufus Sewell as Prince Andrew.
Yes, well, I think the makeup is incredible for a start.
It really is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It is about him, and obviously that he is the sort of the center, but it's equally about it's about Keeley Hawes as the aide. There's so much of a useful perspective from her character. The BBC's perspective is kind of the sort of the moral and righteous standpoint of asking those difficult questions. But then you also have to sort of there's an interesting and challenging position that Rufus has to take on, which is trying to play someone that is not intrinsically a villain or exonerated, but a flawed, eccentric man. And he does a very good job of doing that.
He really does. It's me and Dom went to see this at Netflix HQ, by the way, and they also gave Dom a really nice glass coffee cup.
Yes, it was very nice. Thank you, John from Netflix.
Yeah, we went to Netflix HQ and sat in a screening room with fellow journos. Are we allowed to call ourselves journos by now? Ridiculous. We're the idiots sat there trying not to chew through the free popcorn that we got, which was excellent. By the way.
We chewed very much.
Netflix. And in this, we had a really good time in this room. Normally, like we say, these junkets events can be a little stifling, people writing notes and stuff, but we were all like laughing, appalled.
Yes, yeah, laugh. Yeah, I mean, it is a very interesting. I mean, that was one of the things that I talks about with Philip, actually, was walking the fine line with tone with Scoop between very hard hitting and sensitive subject matter, and this also intrinsically quite unusual world that the royal family especially, but also the press, can inhabit, and all the sort of the quirks and incredulousness, which and it does actually work to lighten the mood a little bit, because some of the other stuff can be very, very intense, and it was very well balanced.
Really
we thought there was laughter in the room, but
yes,
certainly not detracting from any of the very serious content.
Oh God, no, not in any way, shape or form. If it came across that I said that, it felt that way from my side, but no, it was a release. It was kind of like we needed to laugh, we needed to feel.
Because it's
so intense,
difficult stuff.
Yeah, and Gillian Anderson as well is incredible. The whole cast, just really cool. I'm a big fan of Billie Piper and Keeley Hawes, and they're both just so good in this. So yes, it's definitely worth watching, and really, really, it's toe curling at times, and it's fantastic. So before we decide who is gonna go up first, we just want to say thank you to all those of our amazing listeners who spread the love about last week's episode with Matthew Butler-Hart and Tori Butler-Hart talking about their movie Dagger, which is out now. Do go support indie film if you can. Do go support that film and support indie film, because you seem to love the episode.
A bit upsetting. First one I haven't done in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. Lots of love on it.
Devastating.
Yeah, you get lots of love anyway, so it's very separate. But I just want to thank people for last week, and do go and listen to that. How to make an iPhone movie for very little money and successfully get a cinema run and get a release all around the world with fantastic reviews. So do listen to that one after you've listened to this, and that is on the film Dagger. So next week, we'll mention it now because we have, me and Dom recorded this the other day, though I was sporadically in and out because my internet was terrible, with Zack Snyder. Obviously, he's directed 300, Justice League, Watchmen, also producer on Wonder Woman, and 300 Part 2, which really should have been called 301. I think it was a Dalmatians movie.
600?
Yeah, 600, yeah. And he joined myself and Dom to talk all about Rebel Moon. So that's going to be with you next week.
Part 2.
And Part 1, and just about making movies.
What an outrageous outrageous guest.
Outrageous guest, by the way. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
And I think it's fair to say that the Filmmakers podcast has made the big time.
I'd have said that when you joined, Dom.
Oh, thank you, Charles. Thank you.
That was a pleasure. So that's for you next week. Dom also chatted with Ed Skrein and Sophia Botella as well for Rebel Moon as well. So all three of those amazing guests will be with you next Tuesday. For now, though, Dom, let's keep with this wondrous film called Scoop. Who should we go for first? Who did you chat to first? Maybe we'll do it that way.
Let's do Philip. Let's do it in domological order, because sometimes my memory functions and I occasionally will side reference an interview with the next interview about something we might have talked of. Right. And this might be one of those occasions.
Right. Okay. So, what did you talk about with Philip Martin? Can you remember?
Well, we've already talked about the tone. We also talked about how his early work with the BBC's Horizon and Hawking taught him the factual crossover and how to approach that world. We talked about his crowning achievements on The Crown.
Very nice.
And how that informed the royals as subject as well, and his extensive TV career more than anything.
Yeah, because he's appeared on Richard and Judy. So that says it all about his TV career.
That says something.
Says something. He's directed Prime Suspect 7, Wallander, Pyro, Birdsong, The Tunnel, Catherine the Great, The Crown, as Dom has said, which he also produced 21 episodes, directed 7, and the TV series Night Sky. So he's feature films. He's directed Japan in a Day, which was fantastic, if you remember that, in 2012, and also The Forger, which starred Fortunate, John Travolta, Christopher Plummer, and Ty Sheridan, who was our guest 2 weeks ago. So if you do want to listen to that one, then listen to that one after you've listened to this, and then after you've listened to Matt and Tori talk about Dagger, then listen to Ty Sheridan. And Philip, the director who Dom's about to talk to now.
Or maybe listen to Ty Sheridan first.
Yeah.
Because I was on that one.
And now
I'm joking. You should listen to Matt and Tori as well.
Yeah, because it is a great one. And now he's directed Scoop. So let's get to it, shall we? We will join you after Dom has chatted with Philip Martin. Enjoy.
An hour of television can change everything.
3 women and a whippet. Wouldn't have seen that in a BBC studio when I started.
The allegations surrounding Jeffrey Epstein include his friend Prince Andrew.
Sam, let's stop pushing the palace. I want it for us.
You're chasing a story that we're never going to get.
This is the work. My job is booking the people we can't just call up.
Hello, everyone.
You have a problem that won't go away.
We're looking at options. But there is a red line.
I've never been smuggled into a palace before.
If I do an interview, the question is, why you?
With respect, you know how people see you.
Spell it out.
Brandy, Andy.
With respect.
Everything's changed. The FBI are raiding Epstein's home. You can't stay silent. South drawing room, 2 chairs, 6 feet apart.
It's like a Western.
Make no mistake, if we don't get the tone right, the story won't be him. It'll be us.
Your Royal Highness. Tomorrow night, in an unprecedented interview, we will hear from the Duke himself.
You know, I thought that all went very well.
All across the world, every paper, on every news channel, this is the story.
Go away!
This is only going to get bigger.
This interview, does it matter?
Yeah, it matters.
Hello. Hi, Dom. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
Grab a mic. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yes. So, welcome to the Filmmakers podcast.
Lovely to be here.
Big congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, we all watched it at Netflix HQ a couple of days ago.
Okay, great.
And it was a really sort of fascinating reaction from the audience, because there was the ums and the ahs, and there was a surprising amount of there was the comedy came through, which actually really gave people a reprieve, and it was a hard hitting piece, and it was a really original one. So
great! Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. So how are you feeling? I mean, how's the
great? And it's lovely. You sort of work away on something for a year or so, and then it sort of goes out into the world, and everyone responds to it, and so it's exciting. Yeah, yes. It's great. I'm excited for people to see it. Excited to to see the responses to it, and especially as we worked hard to have a kind of tonal complexity to it, so that that what you're talking about, that it feels like you think it might be one thing, and then it turns into another, and I think that was very much a part of it. So it's great to see that people are responding to that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it also makes it an easier watch, because it is a very hard subject matter, and I think if it was all very deadpan sort of drama, it would be a lot for people to take in, but actually it does. And also I think it really shines a light on some of the quirks and the oddities around both the sort of the newsroom world and the royal family especially, and I think you did a very good job of that.
Thank you. It was very daunting sort of territory, because Buckingham Palace is huge and it's its own world, but also the BBC is as well. It's the largest sort of news organization in the world, and full of super interesting people, and so trying to do justice to both of those worlds, and because people are familiar with it, and it's a contemporary story. I did a couple of seasons of the first 2 seasons of The Crown.
Yes, that's right.
Those were set in the 1950s, and slightly like looking through a sort of murky pond or something. You don't necessarily see everything clearly. There are little bits that you see. There are other bits that you don't see. But you can revisit the past in a way that's easier in some ways than the present. But everybody knows what London looks like now, and everybody. Sam McAlister, opening scene with her. She's on a bus going down Oxford Street, and
very London.
And not a very bright sunny day. So like a grey old London day, and in a way it was a joy to do all of that stuff. And one of the things that was so appealing to me about this story was its sort of freshness and its modernity, and the fact that it happened in the world that we all know, and also from a perspective that wasn't, if you like, particular to inside the palace. The Crown is a story that was a wonderful story, and I'm so proud of all my work on it. But it's a perspective that's inside the castle, looking out, if you like. And I thought what was lovely about this story was just to walk with Sam, played by Billy Piper, through the gates of Buckingham Palace. None of us have ever done that, and there's that sort of strange vicarious thrill of all of that, and an innocence to it that felt very charming.
Did The Crown inform much of your work on this? Like, I mean, how did that sort of help in terms of your understanding of the royal family? Obviously, it was a different era, but did it help to understand the mindset of where the handlers of Andrew and that sort of hierarchy sort of came into play? Yeah,
I was very involved in the first 2 seasons, as I said, of The Crown, and involved in kind of as part of the group that sort of tried to figure out how to do it in very sort of early days of Netflix's operation in the UK, and so it was definitely. It definitely is a world that's fascinating, and that it has its own codes and has its own sort of particular, I guess, obviously hierarchy and ways of doing things. And there's something very, very British about it all, obviously, but also something very kind of appealing and interesting to try to get into that world. But also the BBC as well is another great institution that has its own codes and its own ways of operating. And so it felt to have these 2 big institutions kind of
coming to loggerheads.
Coming to loggerheads, it felt fascinating and but also daunting, because people know what the Buckingham Palace looks like, they know what the BBC looks like. These are really buildings of scale and environments of scale, full of lots and lots of people, and you have to do justice to all of that, not only in the sort of physical recreation of it, but also in the tone and in the atmosphere and in the realism of it.
How did you approach the shooting of the Palace?
The shooting of the Palace, same as with the BBC, is just you break it down into little component elements, so that when Sam goes into the Palace or when she goes into the BBC, we sort of film the exteriors of the BBC. The BBC were very lovely to us, let us film outside, and then when Sam goes in the lift up to the Newsnight offices, that's I think in Brent Civic Centre, and then when she goes into the Newsnight offices, that's in a set we built in Uxbridge, and then when she goes into the studios, that's over in East London, BT Studios. So we found all of these multiple locations, and you kind of create a jigsaw puzzle and try to move fluidly and with energy from one place to another, so people don't sort of get that you're swapping sets, but that's what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, especially, I was very aware that the inside stuff couldn't have been, the Palace, but all the stuff where she's, anyone's going into the Palace and the external stuff, I was actually, at the time, I was thinking that this can't be, but it looks 100% like we are going into the Palace.
That is the right answer.
It was extremely sort of convincing.
Great.
On that side.
Thank you.
So just going back a little bit, Philip, to the what you were mentioning about the two institutions, because Billie Piper's character, Sam, she's kind of this middle ground that has to try and mediate two like very sort of big, tough, powerful institutions, and that felt like a very sort of conscious choice. I mean, obviously she was instrumental to the situation anyway, but she very much felt like a sort of a middle ground between those two sort of worlds. Was that always in the sort of early drafts of the script and the plan to have it in that sort of framing?
Definitely. It's a story at its core about journalism and about the work that journalists do day in, day out. And at the beginning of the story, it's not obvious that an interview with the Palace is either going to be possible or desirable or interesting or worthy of Newsnight or whatever. But that's what journalists do. They just got a lot of different things going, and they're pursuing multiple stories, and some of them are going to catch fire and some of them aren't. And in some ways, that was one of the things that we were very keen to do, based in large part on Sam McAlister's book Scoops, which tells that story of setting up a whole lot of multiple interviews and with different people and how she goes about it. And so that felt like a really great way to tell the story, and to in some ways to celebrate that world and to celebrate the work and the importance of it.
So let's go back to how you sort of boarded the project and how you sort of got involved in this, because that would be a really interesting story.
So like everybody, I saw the original interview and was amazed by it, and then heard some of the response to it from Andrew in particular, that he thought it had gone well, and it felt like that feels very interesting territory for a drama to inhabit, the difference between, if you like, the global response to the interview and the response of some of the people who were in the interview, and that sort of thought, okay, well that's interesting dramatic territory. And then Peter Moffat, I'd worked with him before on a project about Stephen Hawking. It was one of the sort of first things that I did. Yeah. I started as a documentary director and ended up making a lot of documentary films about cosmology, and I collaborated with Hawking I collaborated with Hawking on a 6-part series about the beginnings of the universe and the Big Bang and all of that sort of stuff, and got to know him and devised a drama, or worked on a drama, proposed a drama on his life, and Peter came to write the script for that. And so he's got this amazing capacity to sort of, if you like, absorb complicated information and turn it into amazing drama. And so I read Peter's script, and it had such a lightness of tone and such an energy and a propulsive forward momentum to it. I thought, okay, this is a really interesting, tonally an interesting way into the story. And I think I tried with my side of it to match, if you like, the promise of the writing with a kind of a visual energy and an editorial energy, so that you race through it, and you then suddenly screech to a halt and you're in the interview and you're sort of marooned in the interview for 20 minutes, but understanding why you're there, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, there was obviously a lot of groundwork to get to the interview, and actually, you as you said, the pace is so much that the interview isn't necessarily even the main course. It's almost like a amazing dessert at the end of the meal. But you've been through all the the actual there's a huge sort of narrative arc.
Yeah.
So I mean, was there much that you as a director, we discussed the visuals and the pace, was there much in the sort of writing side that you had sort of opinions of or directions to take, from the early inception of the project?
I think you always sort of it's always a collaboration with a writer, particularly a writer as great as Peter, and I think that but we all felt like we were on the same page about where to tell the story, and that it was Sam's perspective that was the thing that was in some ways original about it and interesting, and also that would sort of take it away from being, if you like, just not one-dimensional, but a sort of a straightforward retelling of a story that people knew.
Sure.
I think this gives it a sort of edge, and it gives it an unexpected surprise to it. And ultimately, drama is about surprise as well as even though we know what's coming, you want people to feel that they're looking at something that they know with new eyes. And so definitely you always work closely with the writers and then obviously with the actors too. I often think that a good film should be a good drama should be like a wildlife film, but with people in it. I think you're looking for behavior. You're looking to see people behaving in a way that's interesting. And one of the fascinating things about the original interview was that although Andrew said extraordinary things, he also, a lot of people formed their judgment on him about how he carried himself, how he was as a person, the sort of the thought process that goes into answering the questions. People, we're incredible as humans. We're incredible at reading other human beings, and a lot of the attitude towards the interview was human beings reading another human being, and I thought that was something that was in some ways what drew me to the project and to Peter's script, was that a lot of the project is about, or a lot of the film is about how we look at things, how we see things. Sam, for instance, isn't really seen by a lot of by a lot of her colleagues, and how we see
unsung
Andrew.
Hero almost.
There's an opening shot that in New York that sort of takes you from the bridge into the room where the Jay, the journalist, the photographer is. In some ways, these where we put the camera, the perspective, the process of seeing, is trying to send, in some ways, visual clues to the reader, to the audience, that in some ways the answers of this film are in people's reactions, emotional reactions to each other in the acting and so on.
Yeah, and I think that's a sort of really fascinating point about observing how we got to this point, because the interview, and because the interview in itself, out of context, is such a wild, sort of crazy interview. It's kind of hard to imagine how you sort of got to there. Was it difficult for you to kind of balance the idea of not necessarily explaining him, but sort of understanding maybe why he thinks in a certain way? I mean, like the bits with the teddy bears on the on the bed, the idea of this guy that maybe hasn't sort of developed out of childhood particularly well. Was that a difficult sort of process? Because obviously you don't want to exonerate him necessarily, and you don't want to vilify him without sort of having any sort of context. So I mean, that must have been a challenging thing to sort of get the balance right of.
I think so. It's very important not to do either of those things, not to exonerate and not to vilify, but just to, if you like, to tell the story that we know, and also to do it, I felt, through the perspective of the three women at Newsnight who got the interview and brought it home, and that felt like a sort of fresh perspective on it, and a perspective that would, if you like, allow you to come at the familiar in a new way. But definitely with all of the actors and with all of the parts, you're trying to find obviously a foothold in reality, and nobody. One of the things Rufus has said, no one thinks of themselves as a villain, and no one, perhaps sometimes people think of themselves as a good guy, or whatever, but people's image of themselves is often, is often not who they are or whatever. And so it's important with factual drama that you have a sense of that you're able ultimately to connect with these characters and to understand them. And in some ways, that's what it does. It gives you an emotional, perhaps rather than a documentary can give you factual information. A drama can give you emotional information. It can make you feel and understand what it's like to be Andrew in this situation, to be Emily in this situation, to be Sam in this situation. So it's that side of it that I think is so exciting.
Yeah, and I think you did very well to sort of play Keeley Hawes' character as she is, because I think that adds a real element of depth, and also you can have a lot of warmth from her character that you would not necessarily want to put onto him because of the situation, and I think that worked as a very sort of third party as well, because I kind of saw like a bit of a mother figure almost, and sort of wants to sort of see the best in him, and then you're sort of seeing the opposite side from the press and from the other people around him, and I thought that was a really fascinating way to approach the relationship.
Thank you. Well, obviously Keeley's amazing, and it was a complete delight to work with her, and I feel that like Billy, like Rufus, like Gillian, they're all trying to play rounded human beings and trying to understand why. Retrospectively, it's very easy to say, okay, it wasn't a good idea to do the interview, but going into it, it was obviously harder to know that, and I think that the people within the palace, they are experienced. They are, whether they made the right decisions or not, they weren't inexperienced, and they wanted a very specific outcome, which was to make this problem go away. And so I think trying to sort of help the audience to see how people could have arrived at that decision, what kind of thought processes led to it, I think is a big part of the film.
And in terms of working with the actors, were they always the first choice? Did you sort of do a lot of rehearsal to try and figure out these things?
Yeah, we spent. You never. It's funny with rehearsals. You never quite get enough time, but then you sometimes don't want too much time, because you can sort of overthink things, and it's sort of it's this combination. But certainly with
fresh but understood.
Exactly that. Yeah, well put. And the thing with I guess with factual drama is that people just have a lot of sort of practical research-based questions, and sometimes what you end up doing in the rehearsal time is just everybody getting their story straight and figuring out what was what, and just getting to research clips and find bits of factual information and get all of those conversations out of the way, so that when you're on the set where there's a lot of pressure, that everyone has got a sort of rooted sense of where they are. One of the things that was great about the schedule, sometimes the schedule works for you, sometimes it doesn't. But one of the lovely things about this one is very early on, we did the interview. And so Rufus and we did a lot of scenes in the BBC first, but then the first time, apart from half a day, the first time that Gillian and Rufus was in that big interview. And then we just did that. And, and then it was done, and I think that those, that allowed them to feel really grounded in their characters and really rooted in them, and to feel okay. We've done that, and it was magic. They just were amazing. One of the things we did was in a script, you get a lot of little mini scenes of the interview, and then you're intercutting between other things. But we just joined it all up as to one big 20-25 minute scene, and we just ran the interview as a performance for 25 minutes without a break.
Yeah.
And
to make everyone intense. Yeah.
And that I think that brought the electricity to it, the live
definitely.
quality, the quality of performance to it. So,
there certainly was that. Just a very quick wrap up, as I know we've got to finish up. If there's any quick bit of advice for upcoming filmmakers trying to make it, do you have any tips?
I think the best thing to do is to start doing it. I think that I think that it's possible. I think it's possible now to have access to technology in a way that's affordable and also technically simple. In the old days, it used to be there was that old communist thing of getting the hold of the means of production, and no one could get film cameras, and you had to borrow them and steal stock and all of those things, and editing was complicated. I think now the process is so intuitive and so sort of technically accessible to people that I think the magic of filmmaking, you see it on TikTok, just start doing it. Start putting one shot against another, and then another, and then another, and telling a story, shot, and that would be my advice. And then just learn. Well, as you see, there's so many wonderful young filmmakers coming through every day. But that's just to do it, Whereas before, in the olden days, people would sort of be wrestling away with a script for years, I think now just do it.
Get out there and do it.
Get out there and do it.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that. Really
pleasure.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much for that.
Lovely.
This summer, serve up the Cookout Classics, Heinz Ketchup, and Kraft Singles. Every good burger needs a layer of perfectly melty cheese and thick, rich ketchup. We all know it's not a cookout without Heinz and Kraft.
Where is Daredevil? I'm right here. Don't miss the return of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again.
So what's next?
I feel liberated. We're gonna take this city back. Over-medicated. In an all-new season, now streaming only on Disney+.
They're hunting us. It's time we started hunting them.
I can work with that.
This should be tons of fun.
Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again, now streaming only on Disney+.
Well, there we go.
Philip Martin. That was great, wasn't it? Really interesting. Right, who's next?
Well, let's go with Sam, because this is
Sam McAlister.
Sam McAlister, yeah. It is very much her story. It was really fascinating, actually, meeting her after watching Billie Piper in the Netflix show.
Yeah, playing her. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a really interesting way that she was, portrayed as well. I mean, you'll find out from the discussion. She's, because we discussed some of these moments that were very important in the actual show about, being upfront, being direct, when actually, being honest and real with someone, like in the sort of the scene where they're pitching to Prince Andrew and his aides about doing the thing, and I love that kind of openness and upfrontness and authenticity that she has, and it was fascinating sort of seeing that in real life. I'd say she was she was actually slightly softer than the portrayal, but equally as talented. So I'll go with that.
That's really cool.
We also talked about how to find a good and original feeling story in film or in journalism. And the kind of the key thing, which is really, I think, is the perspective of us, the audience, is kind of thrown in as her perspective, which is the difficulty of being a producer and keeping the opposing views and teams happy. I mean, for instance, the Royals and the BBC, very different goals here. Like the Royals are sort of hoping for a rosy, glowing exoneration. The BBC potentially like after the truth and a hard-hitting story, and she's kind of in the middle of that, which I think is the perspective that the audience finds themselves in as well.
Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's just dive straight in.
Was that waste, was it?
Totally. Everyone's skipping. Yeah.
Waste of everyone's time, isn't it?
Yeah, well, waste.
Let's just skip our bit, shall we?
I think it's so fascinating, like being writing and being a Newsnight producer and then writing a novel about, essentially something that has made your career, is your career. I imagine it will be with her forever. And then now it to be a movie as well must be just interesting. Someone playing you must be just
that's
so
a fascinating
odd.
thing, yeah.
I can't imagine that happening to me. Someone go,
the Giles Alderson story.
Yeah, the Giles Alderson story, which I'm looking forward to. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be great, by the way. It's going to be action-packed. Lots going on. Yeah. Non-stop. It just, people won't be able to look away from the screen. It's going to be one of those. So yes, I can't even imagine what that would be like. So it's fascinating and how interesting.
Let's not imagine it.
No, it's not. I just did. That's the problem. What would yours be?
Exactly. I feel like it'd be sort of cake themed, something like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Well, no, you've
maybe hiking in cake. Something like tying those two great pastimes together.
Hiking in cake. What, like a giant cake and you're in it, just trying to eat your way out.
That's
Great.
it. Yeah. That sounds like a great game show.
Game show now, is it? I thought this was like a film of your life.
There we are, BBC. We've got a pitch.
There we go. There you go.
Let's get Sam on.
Here's Sam.
So, welcome to the Filmmakers Podcast, Sam.
Thank you for inviting me.
And we watched the film a couple of days ago, and everyone in the room was very gripped. And I think it was fascinating to see such a human and complex and multi sort of faceted story. So, I think the first question I'd like to ask is actually a broad one, because there's a lot of writers in our podcast. Like, how do you find good stories that are original? Because that's one of the themes in the film, isn't it? Like finding something original that's interesting and it's unique and it's not something that's been sort of done before. It's not sort of rehashing.
Yeah, absolutely. In a sense, it's I am the story in this one, so it's slightly different. Slightly different from the usual. I accidentally stumbled upon the story, but I think in general that's what news is. News is storytelling, and even though, of course, it comes under the auspices of quite pretentious things like accountability and journalism, and speaking truth to power and freedom of speech. In truth, they're all stories. So everything that I worked on was really thinking about who would be interested in this? Why are people interested in this? And the breadth of what I would do, from talking to a global CEO or someone who tragically had just lost their child, for example.
Yeah, so some really, really difficult conversations to have, I suppose.
Really difficult conversations. And so you were really in an absolutely extraordinary mix of circumstances, from, Buckingham Palace to the city and law firms, and then the next minute dealing with somebody who'd had something terrible happen to them personally or their family. And at the core of all these things are stories, human stories, that, to be pretentious about it, you make it sound something highfalutin, as an individual journalist, you're like, we're truth tellers with this, but actually they're human stories. You either relate to them or you don't. That's the essence.
I suppose it's the relatability, isn't it? And what was it about this story in particular that you thought, okay, this is really a goer. There's something really interesting here. It's not just another sort of royal family dig. There's a lot of depth here. There's something interesting to explore.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously at the beginning of my personal experience working at Newsnight, when I was first approached in an email by Prince Andrew's charitable pursuit, it wasn't a good story, to be honest.
No, exactly.
Because things hadn't happened that made this the most important story in the world. So the process of the film itself takes you on the change that often happens with news content, where 1 second it's everything and the next second it's nothing. Now, in this occasion, when I was first dealing with the palace, most of my colleagues were like, it's not very Newsnight. Why would we be interested? He's kind of a forgotten member of the royal family. Well, he became remembered.
He certainly did.
Over the year and 1 month that I was dealing with the palace, it turned from a non-story into the only story in town. So you accompany Billy and myself, as it were, on that journey from working on something that no one is really interested in to having all of the pressure of the world on trying to secure an interview that could change the history, basically, of the royal family, which it factually did. So that journey, I hope, is an interesting narrative to experience how things change so rapidly within a second.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I think that was really fascinating for me in the watching of this was that you're the character played by Billy. That's obviously you.
So meta, isn't it? I'm confused at this stage.
It's like Inception, isn't it? But her character very very much feels kind of stuck between these two very big, powerful sort of institutions. You've got the BBC on one side, and on the other side, you've got sort of Prince Andrew's team. And it feels like you're very much sort of trying to do the right thing by both sides and kind of have a fair interview process, but one that isn't sort of skimping on the important stuff. I mean, how was it to sort of go through that process and try and navigate, that kind of world?
No, absolutely. I mean, obviously, this is the one time you experienced that with me or Billy. It's all gone a bit strange. Yeah. But factually, that was the job. The job was balancing the needs of the viewer and the accountability things that he or she wanted us to ask as an impartial news organization, and the needs, if you like, of the person that you're negotiating with. And often those worlds have completely opposing needs, right? Yeah. So the news journalist wants to ask the spicy questions that are going to get them news lines, and the individual wants to make sure you don't ask those questions. So my job was always between those two worlds. On this occasion, of course, titans the BBC and Buckingham Palace. Yeah. But every negotiation I did would be, the person saying, "Oh, but I hope they can't ask about this," and you'd be like, "No, we will." My team going, "Well, make sure they know that we're going to ask about this," and I'd be like, "Yeah, I will." Yeah. So in a sense, I take heat from both sides all the way through my career. And this is no exception.
Yeah, I mean, I think being a producer is that a lot of the time. It's trying to field impossible points of views from different elements, and then try and feed them into something that works. And it is really challenging. I mean, how do you learn those skills of being good at dealing with people and those kind of negotiations?
Well, I was just really lucky that my background is that, my family are largely East End market people.
Okay, yeah.
Gift of the gab, art of the deal. When I get angry, you can hear the accent come out more. Billy said she could tell when she was doing the voice coaching to get my voice that there's that East End twang in there somewhere. Yeah. But, that was my background. I think also I'm extremely resilient. I don't take it personally.
That's such a big thing.
Well, people are entitled to say no. And one of the things I found interesting in the work that I did is so many times I would hear, colleagues going, "Well, basically you'd be lucky to come on this program." I took the opposite view. You're doing us a favor. So I think the way that I dealt with people, always bluntly, as you see in the movie, but with integrity and fairness, balancing all of that, and ultimately remembering, although this was an incredibly important piece of journalism and accountability,
definitely,
most of the time what we did was not this important. It was either fun or informative or entertaining or momentarily important. And so not taking myself too seriously, I think, was probably key.
I think it's that you definitely did sort of take it very seriously, and you can tell by the way that it was all handled. I think, as a producer as well, like, what you were sort of touching on there about the authenticity. People, when they get to a certain point in the industry, they don't want the sort of the sugarcoating and the oh, it'll be fine and those kind of things. Actually, people like that are very hard to deal with, and you often end up in the deep end without knowing where you are. So I think people do really respect when you have that kind of integrity and you will ask the difficult questions, because if you are willing to ask those things up front, then obviously you're thinking things through and you're preparing people so that they're going in, with their eyes open.
No, 100%. I think ultimately I always kind of saw myself, as kind of like a little product, because I leave the BBC, right? And then what did people think of me when they dealt with me? And the way I tried to do this high stress job with so much expectation and pressure was that I treated people as I like to be treated.
That's it, yeah.
I was always open and honest. I told them the truth. I never, ever said to them, "Oh, yeah, no, don't worry about that," or "We can sort that out." I never overpromised. I never misled. And so really this is the kind of, the ultimate example of that, because there was no misunderstanding. We would ask what we wanted to ask about the things that we were going to ask about. There were no conditions. And that was very rare in the industry.
Yeah.
And I think I managed to navigate that because of that bluntness, as some people might call it, or integrity, as I like to call it. And people knew where they stood. And I often lost content because I told the truth.
Yeah.
But I never wanted anyone to be able to say to me, "You lied to me about X." That's never been said to me.
And I think there's a great scene when they're at the negotiating table and you are Billy's sort of going in at sort of Andrew and his team and saying like, this is the reality, this is where you're at, and I think everyone at the table respects it, and I think that was a really great sort of moment.
But it could have gone either way.
It definitely could have gone either way.
And I think there was a collective. It was over 2 hours in reality, that
was it?
meeting.
Wow. Okay.
So there would have been a collective kind of like holding of breath when I told Prince Andrew that he was known as Randy Andy. That was definitely a moment, my friend. But it could have gone either way. But I had enough experience to take the risk that I felt that we had the rapport of this bluntness and honesty. It's not how other people would have conducted themselves.
Sure.
But I feel that that's a difference between me and other people, that, I will tell you the truth for better or worse, not disrespectfully, but you can trust me.
That's it, yeah.
In that period of time, which is so small, people are just going to have to judge whether or not you're going to deal with them fairly. And he had a lot to risk.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
he was dealt with incredibly fairly.
Yes, definitely.
And that ultimately is what Emily and Esme and Stuart, who was the deputy editor, and I can hold our heads high that, we dealt with integrity and fairness throughout.
Yeah, definitely. So what was the process of going into the book and then obviously the Netflix after that? I mean, was it like, okay, this was a huge success? What was the process of writing a book like? For a start?
Well, in the nicest possible way, I'm a nobody. No one knew who I was. I barely existed other than if you'd read Esme Wren's tweet, my editor, sort of, saying that I was the person that had landed the interview. You wouldn't know that I was out there. So the process of actually getting a book agent and writing a book proposal, which I'd never done.
Yeah.
I'd never written anything other than a legal opinion when I used to be a lawyer, and that was a long time ago, and no one would want to read that. So the actual process of getting those elements was very hard for an ordinary person who isn't famous and doesn't have any kind of, public status.
Yeah.
But I know what news is. And I knew I was the only person in the world who could tell this tale. Because if you ask, how did this interview happen? There are people who could tell you some elements of it, but I'm the only person that can tell you the story from the beginning.
Yeah, and in the middle of it as well.
And in the middle. And I know what news is. And I know that when you say to somebody, I'm the only person in the world that can tell you this part of the story, I can't speak to Emily's brilliance or Esme or Stuart or the other people involved, but how it started and how it happened, that was my area. And I was very lucky to find a book agent and a publisher who took a chance on a nobody. And, this has been the result. But it could have been very different. It could have been, my mum and the cat read the book.
Yeah.
She bought 10 copies, so at least we would have had 10 sales.
That's a very clever cat.
Yeah, I see what you did there. The cat didn't buy any. I'm very disappointed in her. And that could have been how this ended. But of course, this outcome, which is beyond anyone's wildest dreams, to have a Netflix movie where you're played by Billie Piper, is really just next level.
What was some of the challenges of actually writing a book? Because I think there's a lot of detail involved in a book, because there's so much description and thought. And I'm going on to how Netflix got attached to the project. They've obviously got a huge resource there with tons of details and your inner thoughts about the whole situation. So yeah, how did that sort of transition work?
So I was given 3 months to write the book, 80,000 words. So you just had to get on with it.
Right. Wow. Okay.
I'm good with deadlines.
Yeah.
And so I had to deliver that in a very short period of time. I used to write at weekends and nights because I'm bringing up my son as a single parent. So, food has to be made, bills have to be paid. You just got to get on with stuff. In terms of the transition, effectively, the story of the Andrew element is 3 of the chapters of my book.
Yes.
And the production companies, Voltage and Lighthouse, who approached me to work with me, read those chapters and then went, this is the point of view of this tale.
Cool. Okay.
This is the thing that people don't know. This is what we didn't know. And it goes back to that thought. What is a story? A story is something you think you knew, but you get fresh perspective on. Also with the joy of seeing the thing that you actually know. So Netflix, very early on, I was so thrilled they were interested, but I think they understood that as well, that what you have is something that you think you know something about with an entirely fresh perspective, told obviously from the viewpoint of the hardworking journalists at Newsnight, many other people on the team other than myself, but Emily and Esme, the editor, and Stuart, the deputy editor, and our made-up character, Freddie. So all of the people in that newsroom who worked so hard, the story you didn't know combined with the story you did, I think makes for an electric piece of filmmaking. It's the unfamiliar and the familiar together.
Yeah, I agree. And the insights you get into the BBC world and especially, the palace, I mean, just moments like Andrew's sort of inner workings and the teddy bears on the beds and all this kind of stuff. And just how he relates with his aides and that kind of thing. It's fascinating to sort of get those and also insights into the journalist world. So what was the process in terms of the development of the Netflix script from the book, and how were you sort of involved in that? Because I mean, was the tone of this is quite unique, how it's sort of come out, and I'm guessing it wasn't entirely like that in the book, or was it? I haven't read the book, but yeah.
Oh well, I know you'll be buying it later.
I will, of course. Yeah.
Well, the book, of course, I am a guardian of fact in my life.
Of course,
I've been a lawyer and I've been a journalist, so it's all about evidence and facts. And in the book, when you read it, you'll find that I only speak to things that I personally witnessed or that I personally said. Very careful. And of course, I've been through 100 lawyers at this stage. And
of course. Yeah,
I've also had the joy, actually, of being someone that people hadn't heard of. So the veracity of everything I've said has been checked, double-checked, triple-checked by production companies and by Netflix themselves. And so I think the process has been fascinating, because the first time I sat down with the screenwriter, Peter Moffat,
pretty good
we used
writer.
to work in the same chambers. So
amazing.
He used to be a barrister too.
That's great. Yeah.
Amazing. So we had that commonality. I loved his work. Bryan Cranston 1 minute, stuck with me the next, poor thing. But he had the understanding of the complexity of a very serious job that factually is obsessed with what actually happened, and the very serious job he has to turn what is often quite pedestrian things and, emails for months and months, WhatsApps, phone calls that aren't returned, into something that has the essence of the drama and is fair to what happened. So he'd read those chapters. He told me he loved them. He had to, of course.
Oh, yeah.
No one ever tells you they hate the book. Please don't let me know if you do. Don't message me.
I'll find you on Twitter or something.
Yeah, exactly. I hated the book. And that process, I think, of working together and collaborating led me by the hand away from the pure fact that I'm obsessed with into this beautiful melding of fact and fiction that makes such a compelling drama.
And I feel that although the tone is, there's moments where it's light, there's moments when the sort of absurdity does make people laugh in the screening, nothing takes away from the seriousness of what they're discussing and the feeling of authenticity in those newsrooms and those discussions and the royal palace.
Well, look, we're used to that in a job, aren't we? I think members of the public are very sophisticated. They understand that just because one day you might have a bad day or make a quip in a high pressure situation, that doesn't mean that you're detracting from the seriousness of your job.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Of course, this
interview,
that's it.
It is real life.
That's real life.
Yeah.
You're not serious all the time.
Exactly.
You have to get through the day. Sometimes you do make a joke. Sometimes you fall out with someone in the office.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're a bit out of order, as I sometimes could be, because I was so passionate and believed so wholeheartedly in what I was doing. And this interview itself is also the epitome of that, because when we watched it, we knew as a nation, the world knew the seriousness of the allegations, which he fervently denies.
Yeah.
The seriousness of the surrounding story, the huge importance of the impact that the behavior of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell had on countless young women all around the world.
Yeah.
Horrific. But we also knew that he said a lot of things that were factually extremely comedic.
Yeah.
And that's what the film does so faithfully, is it balances beautifully, I feel, that tension between the comedy, to be honest, of some of his answers and the seriousness of the journalism and the subject.
And I think also it displays someone that has a very odd worldview.
Yes.
And you do start to get an understanding, because the interview was on its own quite an outrageous sort of set of things that he said.
Yes.
But starting to understand, okay, this isn't someone that thinks normally.
He did not have a normal life.
No,
I'm not looking to defend him here, but to be clear,
exactly. No,
a man who's
a
man who's 59 years old, who's never had to pay a bill.
Yeah.
He's never done a 360 or had an appraisal. He's never had to go for a job.
Yeah.
He's never been told anything other than he's amazing.
Yeah.
He certainly hasn't had to go and ask for a pay rise, because he doesn't have to worry about pay.
Yeah.
So all the things that keep the rest of us vaguely, sort of like have an element of humility.
That's it. Yeah.
He has none of them.
No.
Queen's favourite son, member of the royal family, born into, in a sense, delusion about his own capabilities. So I think Rufus faithfully represents that kind of dichotomy at the centre of Prince Andrew, between someone who is so confident but so wrong to be confident.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, very much so. So just talking about Billie Piper and how that worked with her portrayal
My
of you.
favourite subject, Billie Piper.
So, I mean, how did that start with, in terms of like, did you meet with her?
Yes.
Was it sort of, she's picking up on mannerisms? Like how faithfully to you did she want to portray the character, and how much was sort of wanting to do it? I mean, because it's obviously, you want to portray someone very accurately, but there's obviously quirks that an actor sort of brings in that their own. So how did that process work?
Well, Billie's been so generous with her time, because I can only imagine how tricky it is to play someone who exists.
Yeah.
Usually she's playing someone fictional. It's the first time she's played someone who exists. And also this is a positive story about a woman relentlessly doing her job, single mom, part-time, doing the job that so many hardworking people do. And so in a sense, there was, I suppose, an extra burden that I exist. So she was very generous with her time. We met for the first time for dinner. There may or may not have been consumption of martinis, which are my favorite drink. I gather from the press that we've been doing that she'd never had one before.
Wow.
And that's real commitment to the cause.
That's a good anecdote as well.
But she spent a lot of time with me. And what I loved about Billie's approach to acting is that she just wanted to get to know me. So she asked questions that obviously were about the factual elements, but in the essence, in terms of my personality, for better or worse, she got to spend time with me, see how I dress, how I speak to my son. She met my son.
Yeah.
She heard me speaking to my mother. She knew how warm we were towards one another. She also knew how relentless I was in my professional pursuits. And what I think she encapsulates so brilliantly, which is like most of us, is the space between the professional persona, trying your best, and the moments of human vulnerability that all of us have, whilst bouncing in very high heels in my daily outfit of black pleather. I'm not even going to pretend to it's leather, it's just plastic.
Yeah, plastic, yeah. And you are wearing all black today as well.
Always.
We've got to sort of wrap up, but just any tip for someone trying to break into the industry, producer, writer, journalist, anything, filmmaker?
I think ultimately the only thing I can say is have faith in yourself. I've had so many people over the years tell me to pipe down, I'm too big for my boots, not to toot my own horn, keep it classy, stop being a hype woman. If you don't believe in yourself and hype yourself, no one knows you exist. So it doesn't always end this way. And I am, I know, a unicorn in the luck I've had with this project. But believe in yourself. If you've got that in your heart, keep at it, chase that dream, because, here I am, with Billie Piper playing me in a Netflix movie, the luckiest woman alive. And I just, have love and compassion for everyone else trying their hardest to make their dreams come true.
And you've told a brilliant and important story. Thank you very much, Sam.
Thank you.
The lovely Sam McAlister there, and the lovelier Dom Lenoir. Well done.
No, let's just both say we're lovely. Let's settle at that.
What were you saying? I was lovely. Is that what you just said? Sorry.
No, because you said the lovelier Dom Lenoir. So
yeah.
I wanted to not de-lovely anyone. Let's just say we're all lovely.
Oh, you didn't want to over-lovely her. Yeah, you wanted to be
that's
less,
it, exactly, yeah.
The same amount of lovely as Sam.
We're all lovely, yeah.
Great. Yeah. Sam McAlister there, chatting with Dom. Lost the plot, haven't we?
I've got to say, it felt like that was like a little bit of a pressure, on the interview. It wasn't like a sort of a big thing, but you're actually thinking like, well, hang on. This person has probably dealt with far better interviewers than me. It's way better, like Top Gun interviewers from Newsnight, and I'm like this filmmaker,
bumbling through questions,
through it. But I think I did pretty good.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. It seemed like she took a shine. She was happy to take photos with you afterwards. So I don't think.
Yeah. This
is Keeley, Hawes, and Rufus Sewell, which is our last guests on this scoop of an episode. They were paired together. Tell us about this, because I wish I was there. I wish. As I mentioned, I think the other week, it was one of the first ever plays I saw in London. Rufus Sewell was starring in it. It's called The Ratcatcher, and it was, long time ago now, and it really made me want to be involved in
catching rats.
Catching rats in acting and getting stuff made. God, it was just I was blown away, and I really wanted to just speak to him and say hello. It was inspiration. But yes, tell us about this. What can our audience expect?
Well, I mean, it was a really fascinating chat. I mean, sort of going back to what I was saying earlier about, an actor's role, and how they have to sort of separate those character choices from any kind of judgment. I really enjoyed the fact that Keeley had this kind of, mothering energy towards Rufus's Prince Andrew, and provided an interesting sort of, because you can't have Prince Andrew's character as too sympathetic, but she's the kind of sympathetic third party that sort of connects nicely into that. So I thought that dynamic was really interesting. Also about preparing quirks and mannerisms, how they sort of built their characters.
Yeah, that must have been fascinating to see how he would get into the head of Prince Andrew. I can't wait to hear this. Did he, we find out on the episode, but did he talk about like studying him?
Yeah. Well, I mean, also, I suppose just starting to understand what the background is like, I suppose one of the main interesting things was this kind of bubble that they exist in, where they're not really ever told, oh, that's not a good idea to say that or to think that, and don't say that, that's stupid. These kinds of things that when you never have anyone sort of telling you off because you're in a super privileged position.
Yes,
it can lead to some strange behaviors and quirks, as I mentioned. And I think that was part of it, was understanding, in his case, where that sort of comes from. And then, I suppose in her case, also wanting to believe the best, because obviously she's the aide, and trying to do the best thing for him, which is it's quite heartbreaking because, obviously the interview, it didn't go as intended from a PR perspective.
No, and there were the aides in the room thinking the same thing when you were sat up in the chair.
Well, it was yeah. I mean, I started off with a joke. I was like, oh wait,
oh, did you?
Because they were talking about their sort of previous interviews, and then he's like, oh yeah, the previous interviews were really good. And I was like, oh well, bloody hell, no pressure, no pressure, Rufus.
Are you sure he didn't say that at the end?
No. No, he said at the start.
Well, we'll find out.
We will find out. Yeah, and the last thing was building the heart of the characters around the big interview showdown, and because that was the moment that sort of forged everyone like right into the flame of the fire, like doing your big action scene at the start of the film, and then everything else is kind of softer and easier to get around. So that was the last thing we sort of discussed.
Exciting! Here it is. This is Dom chatting to the absolutely brilliant Rufus Sewell and Keeley Hawes.
Hello. Dom.
Very nice to meet you. Hi, how are you doing?
Pleasure. Hi. So welcome to the Filmmakers Podcast. We are indeed a filmmaking podcast, so hopefully we can go into...
so it's apt then, what you called.
Exactly. Yeah.
I see how that works, yeah.
So, how are you both doing? How's the vibe at the moment?
So far the vibe is... Okay, one doesn't want to jump the gun, but it's not been an unpleasant day so far.
No, as far as these things go.
As far as these things go. With that qualification.
Yeah, the junket, because it's mayhem, isn't it? Sort of going through the junket process and the release of the film, but there's also a very exciting time because you've been working on it for such a long time and you get to sort of put it out to the world.
Yeah, and if you did get on and it is something that you're proud of, it does make it a little easier. But the thing is, even telling the truth feels like a lie after a while.
Yes, it does. Especially when you've repeated yourself 32 times and you try to make it interesting for each person that you meet and yourself.
We haven't done that many. We haven't done that many.
I'd like to hope that my questions would be slightly different.
From and we've had some great questions, and it's really nice to get to this point.
All of them up till now have been amazing.
It's great to get to this point to get a reaction to the film because you spent a lot of time with it, and the anticipation of. And hoping people will like it.
So let's get into how you both boarded the project. Like, how did you first hear about it? I mean, it's obviously a very controversial story. So that must have been an interesting sort of call coming through to both your agents, I'm guessing. Was it sort of through Netflix, casting director? How did that first part happen?
Well, I don't know what happened, to lead up to my getting the email or call from my agent, but it was quite exciting, because, as you say, for all of those reasons, it's like, oh, blimey, and before I'd even read it, just the Prince Andrew, whatever, and your brain shoots off in 1,000 different directions. Just, this is, and then you open the script. But I was already thinking, you know what, this feels like, I feel like it's nice to be offered something that makes you feel like you're being asked to be an actor,
Yeah.
Which is always what I want. But sometimes you have to sort through the things that, you think, God, do they think I'm a type? Is that, which can be frustrating. And sometimes even within that type, there's fantastic stuff to do. But this felt like the kind of thing I used to do when I was younger, and then after a little bit of thinking, I said yes, and then afterwards started panicking, but I had lots of time.
And what about yourself, Keeley?
Pretty much the same, in as much as, you get a call from your agent saying, I'm going to send over a script, and you have a vague idea of what it would be like, what it might be like, what it's about. But actually, it was a very pleasant surprise in that, we're viewing it through the eyes of these incredible women, who worked so hard, rather than, of course it's the story of the interview with Prince Andrew, but actually
it's much more.
It's about much more than that. So don't tell Rufus.
Whoops!
It's about me.
Sorry, I forgot you were there.
I didn't read those bits, but spoils it for the premiere.
I was delighted, and I knew nothing about Amanda Thirsk. I think most people don't, so that was quite an eye opener. And there's so much in there that we don't know. You get offered something like this and think, well, that's the story that we all know. We all have an awareness of the interview. I mean, I think probably everyone. It was one of those moments in time you couldn't get away from it. It was a pleasant surprise. Tonally, it's much more of a thriller than I anticipated.
Yes.
It really gets your heart going, even though that they get the interview, of course they do. There are elements all the way through where you're watching and thinking, or reading the script and thinking, are they going to do it? So it's got a lot to offer that we don't know about.
Who was attached at that point? Was it, okay, it's Netflix who commissioned it, the director Phillips on board? I mean, how much was in place at the point when you both sort of signed on? Because it's interesting to know, like, what goes through your process when you're deciding to board a project for, when filmmakers are sort of trying to get scripts to you and that kind of thing.
I think Billy was on board.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember, actually.
Keeley was on board.
Was I on board?
Because,
there we go.
I'm a fan of hers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I thought, and again, I think Billy and Keeley, and I just remember thinking, it's a good cast. And it did. And Philip, who, from The Crown, and it's just like, okay, so the pedigree is quite good,
Yeah.
Lots of pieces in place.
Yeah, and you can never know for sure what something will be. Often you get offered something and you just think, God, I wish I could watch it and see if I'm any good in this.
Well, you both did very well, right? So I mean, what is the process in trying to? I mean, one of the things I found really interesting when I used to sort of go and observe actors to try and learn how to be a better director and that kind of thing. And one of the most interesting things I learned was that actors, generally have to agree with their character's choices, no matter how abominable the character. So how do you sort of look at someone like, Prince Andrew, and you're sort of playing the aide, of course. How do you look at those characters and find relatable humanisms that you can kind of play whilst, and not villainizing them and sort of creating something that portrays what the script is trying to do?
I think that's probably.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, what I like to do is kind of become a habit of mine now anyway. It's the way I like to look at the world, is even as I was watching the interview and judging him, or at least having judgments about what I think had occurred, I was also trying to, if I use the word empathize, I differentiate that from sympathize, but I'm always interested in what is behind people's behavior, and it's a very useful habit of mine to have in terms of just calibrating your way through human relations. Is yes, they did that. Why would they have done that? What's my contribution to this? Just in general, relationships. But when I watched it, what was fascinating to me about it wasn't just what he was doing, but why. Yes. And what he was thinking and what his version of events and his part in that was. That was what brought me in. So it was a process of discovery to try to go further into that when I was doing it.
And I think that's something that this does incredibly well, because you get to see Andrew sort of with the teddy bears on the bed, and you get to sort of see how he was brought up, and this sort of this insulation, I guess, from the real world. And I think that's what makes your character so. I mean, your character, Keeley, is very heartbreaking, actually, because it's almost like a mothering sort of type relationship.
It is. It's really sad.
It is really sad.
And the ending of her story their story is really sad and quite moving. But I think in terms of, having empathy, I think you're quite right. And I sort of go back to that quite a lot, that actors, and I think it's part of what makes actors on the whole, I think, in my experience, and I've been very lucky maybe, but, really nice, open, decent people, because they are...
Which is kind of boring,
they're less
for people.
judgmental. Yes, it is sort of boring.
Right, who's an arsehole?
But you have to find out, and they, obviously in every walk of life they exist. But on the whole, you are forced to empathise in some way with whoever you're playing, and whatever they might have done, and their reasons or the background or whatever brought them to that decision. So. Yeah.
And I suppose for your character, it's, how do you approach how your character feels about, about his role in all of this? Like, are you hoodwinked yourself? Are you seeing it, but sort of trying not to believe it? Like, because that's a really interesting sort of psychological process for where your character would be with all these things from the BBC and the allegations sort of coming in.
I'm not sure that he thought he was hoodwinking anybody, and I'm almost certain that she didn't ever feel that way. With hindsight, all of that might appear different, but
no.
In the moment, those years ago when all of this was coming about, I think they'd been working together for a long time. They were great friends. She thought very highly of him, and they were very close and trusted each other. She was hugely trusted by him, and she wanted everybody to see him through her eyes. And what a great guy he was. And, it was a moment where the expectation, he had to step forward probably and say something. It did reach that point.
And it is a kind of tragic because your character is so entrusting to her, and she really believes she's doing the right thing. I don't know if they'd left it alone, would it have gone away? Probably not anyway. So
but there's also a sense, you can see it by not so much now, but when people were being put forward to defend him, they often said the same thing, but he was set up, right? And I don't think that's necessarily not true in terms of the MO of the Epstein thing, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. I'm not going to make a statement about what did and what didn't.
Yeah.
But the belief that you were mistreated as a counterbalance to whatever guilt and culpability you feel, there's a strong sense watching Andrew that he feels a victim of something. And that is very common, that people who may or may not have perpetrated certain things can find the version of it in which they are the victim. And vice versa, people who have had terrible things done to them are left sometimes with this sense of guilt. And it can be very hypnotic, and people in that circle can very much go along with it.
Yeah, I suppose this was something we were talking about with Philip earlier, but the idea that someone in that position would just never have anyone really telling them off in life or giving them perspective on these things.
That's bollocks.
Yeah.
It's a bubble.
It's a bubble, yeah exactly.
As we know.
I suppose you're part of the bubble in protecting him as well.
Totally. Yeah, I think there's a huge element of that.
Yeah, and the interview, we got to be there the moment that the bubble was burst in terms of someone no longer, not rudely or not aggressively, but someone suddenly not playing their part in that compact, which was, you believe you're a prince, you believe you're this, therefore so do I.
Yes. Yeah.
That the other person suddenly goes, no, what do you mean? For the first time. And you can see him kind of puckering and gasping for air.
Yeah, crumpling a bit, definitely.
There's an interesting moment, isn't there, when it's social media really that they start to find out through the reaction. It comes through social media, whereas in days gone by they would have waited until the news the next day or whatever. But it's almost in real time
and
that
the
it
news
starts
would have been
to
able to
trickle
shape
through.
it rather than the news having to reflect the social media.
Yeah. And that must have been difficult because obviously your character's got huge guilt for the way the whole thing's kind of come around, because you in a way sort of helped mastermind it.
Yes. But she didn't put the words into his mouth.
That's very true.
He did that.
Very true.
So,
Nice.
Back off. Back off, mate.
Definitely his fault. Definitely his fault. So, how do you two work in terms of when you? Because I mean, obviously, you do have a really convincing relationship with each other in the film. Did you have time to chat in advance? Did you have phone calls? Did you have like any initial discussions, or was it just doing your own sort of work and then relying on the process?
we sat around a table. We had a read through.
But if you're lucky, you just kind of meet in the middle, don't you?
You meet in the middle. You learn your lines. You listen to what the other person's saying.
Helps.
Yeah, and like pretty immediately, I think it just kind of worked.
Yeah.
You know? And if it doesn't, then there's things you might have to do.
Yeah.
But I always, trust what happens naturally.
Yes.
Or is it, explore that.
Yeah.
And how do you both work in terms of, obviously with a true story, you're trying to embody a character and you're trying to do them authentically, but there's going to be small quirks or moments in your own psyche, I guess, that sort of come through. Maybe there's little bits that you want to bring in that isn't in the character or in the script. How do you navigate that for this one, for instance, when you've got, two very clear-cut people?
I don't consciously want to bring in anything that's not in the character as I see it, or not in the script.
Sure.
But, certain quirks that might be where you and the character meet might be different from those quirks that come up with a different actor playing, because that's why it's interesting watching someone embody someone else.
That's it, yeah.
Because there are certain things that I see in Andrew that other people might not. And that's why someone else playing the part is like, yeah, fine, because it's going to be a different concoction and it's going to different mix to tell you something else. But it's not consciously trying to put in parts of yourself, but bits of them that resonate with you.
And sometimes that's casting. If you cast somebody like Rufus, who is inherently likable, like physiologically likable and funny and kind and all of those things, then and not just you in this instance.
Could you write that down?
Likable and funny.
Physiologically.
The filmmakers podcast first.
Those things for free in a character, no matter who you're playing.
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
there
you're
is,
right.
I think.
Yeah.
Always an element of that, just in the fact that you are that person as a human.
I agree. Yeah.
And you do want to use...
There is always that base layer of who you are as a person that will always come in, no matter how different your character is, for sure. Where were we?
I don't know.
There was some good stuff there.
There was some great stuff. Let's talk about
the Library of Alexandria.
Let's talk about let's talk about the rehearsal process.
Yes.
So how do you like to work in that? How do you like to develop and not overdevelop the characters? What sort of happened for this one?
Well, in TV, you rarely get any rehearsal, as you probably know.
Yes.
And in this instance, we got together, we had the read through, and then we were lucky enough to spend some time sitting around a table with Sam, with an advisor from the Palace.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Well, I've said it now.
Yeah, you said it. It's on the record.
And so
talking it through,
and just talking it through really with everyone,
which I like. Yeah.
Yeah, which was great. And so we didn't delve too deeply into each scene, or so it was always quite fresh on the day.
I'm a big believer in not
doing that.
Right?
Yeah, me too.
The mantra is better to have a bad take than a brilliant rehearsal.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because if something happens, you want to film it. You don't want something to happen for the first time in a rehearsal.
Yeah.
Because sometimes then you're trying to chase something that happened. But if something does happen, let it go and try to find something else.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it becomes an impersonation of something that happened before.
Yeah.
Is that to do with aliveness, I suppose, as well? So it's fresh for you every take?
Well, yeah, it's about something. Yes, of course. Something you're going to create. If you're rehearsing like with a play, you get to a level of relaxation that is different, so that things do become fresher the more rehearsed they are. But with filming on TV, you only have enough rehearsal to make something go stale.
Yeah.
With theatre, you get past that back onto a new kind of freshness. Would you agree with that?
I would totally agree with that. Yeah.
So you've got to be careful. But I think
with the play, the adrenaline starts to drop off. But with film, it just rises the more takes you have to do.
Exactly. So, you become self-conscious.
Yeah.
And then it can come round again if you get enough takes.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of top tips for people starting off in the industry, how they might, advice for either your younger selves or someone else sort of trying to break through as an actor, mindsets, tips, tricks, anything like that?
Tips and tricks. That is a
Could be a
tricky
tip
one.
or a trick.
Uh,
I don't know. I mean, is there any moments when you've had like real
Bring
doubts,
a charger.
doubts
Bring
and
a
difficult.
charger.
I think that was a dig at me.
Yeah.
I meant a phone charger.
It's easy to say, I suppose, but relax, as much as you can.
Yeah, I used to think that wasn't true because I think, no, because I tense myself up before I go on, but that was only so I could relax when I went on.
Yes.
But I would when I was a
if you could
drama
bottle
student,
being relaxed.
In the end, it's so much about, listening.
Yeah.
In the end, listening with all your senses is a way of relaxing because your concentration will be on the thing you're looking at rather than yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's the thing that gets if I'm not listening, then I start wondering about why is my nose beginning to turn up? What's happening to my ears? You're not in the moment, but it's all about relaxation.
Listen to people. It's less about you than you think, more about the other person.
Yeah.
I would say.
Amazing.
Make it about the other person.
Great advice. Thank you very much to you both. Really enjoyed the interview. And
thank you.
Yeah. Good luck with the reception.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
What a treat.
What a treat. What a treat for you. I want to know if Prince Andrew has watched Scoop. Because I know...
Oh, yeah.
I know that the Queen used to watch The Crown, and I know that because Ben Caron, the executive producer and director of many of the episodes, has been on the podcast, and he told the story of how he was at a BAFTA event or some event, and he's there walking around this BAFTA, and he gets a tap on the shoulder, and there's this lovely girl stood there, and she went, "Oh, Granny loves the show," and he said, "Yeah, he gets that a lot from people," and he goes, "Oh, great, thanks very much," and he just carried on walking away, and someone went, "Do you know who that was?" And he went, "No." He went, "It was Princess Eugenie."
Wow. Granny loves the show.
Granny loves the show. Isn't that fantastic?
I mean, I guess it's quite a fair show, isn't it?
It's a fair show. Yeah, to watch The Crown might be, I think, towards
not
the end.
Not necessarily all factual, but so I guess it puts 2 points of views across.
No, certainly towards the last sort of few seasons. Obviously, before she died, I can't imagine that she was watching because it got a bit too close to home. I'm sure some of the other episodes did as well, to be honest, talking about her love life and stuff. But here, we're talking about, this is only a couple of years ago. Prince Andrew came across like an app, how he did, and everyone saw that. It's just quite fascinating. Yeah. It's quite fascinating.
Not in a good way.
No. And Charity Wakefield plays Princess Eugenie in Scoop as well, and she produced A Serial Killer's Guide to Life with me and Stan Cousins Row and Poppy Cousins Row, and that's still available, by the way, on Amazon if you do want to watch it. But Charity is in Scoop as well, which is really cool. So well done her.
Take some charity on jars and watch this film.
Yes, please. Yeah, please do. That's a good one. So listen, Scoop is available now on Netflix. If you've got your Netflix, you probably will have seen it scooping around on the Netflix banner as you flick on it. So do watch it. It's actually brilliant. It's a real interesting look at what can happen, what can go wrong, and what you can be advised with. And it's really interesting. Really cool. Well done, Dom.
Too cool.
Again.
Thank you.
Let's see if we get as much love for this episode as last week's episode with Matthew Butler Hart and Tori Butler Hart. Let's just throw it in there. Let's just see. For those of you listening now,
better do.
Please, for Dom's sake, because he might just go, "I'm not doing this anymore," and then I'll be absolutely fucked because I don't have time. So yes, and also because he's pretty good, isn't he?
I'm all right. Although it's funny though. Sometimes guests they're on edge because
they've heard of you.
Well, no, because they think journalists are there to sort of catch them out, and it's like I am technically a journalist, but as I've said before, like the Filmmakers podcast we're like an entirely positive publication. So we go into process, but there's never going to be trying to get someone to say something silly. Like it's really not that. It's actually just to help our audience make films.
Absolutely, yeah. We'd rather take that out. We're not interested in any of that, as you know, because you've listened for 393 episodes now, every single one of them.
And if you listen to 392, then what are you doing?
Yeah. And which one did you miss out on? Let us know. Notes on a postcard, please. Let us know. And speaking of which, thank you for listening. Do support this podcast by going on iTunes or Spotify and clicking the plus button and subscribing so it goes to the top of your podcast of choice inbox every time we release a new one, which is every Tuesday, all about helping you go out there and make your films. And if you did like this, tell all your friends. It's really important that we keep growing. And if you really did like this, then
join Giles's holiday fund.
Yes, then you can do it and join our Patreon if you like, though I'm hardly putting anything on it at the moment, sadly. But you could treat Dom to some cake.
Yes.
Which will gain favour with him, because not only will it help him make his TV series of his life, game show now based on it, it will also get you chatting to Dom Lenoir, and he might give you some amazing advice on filmmaking, 1-to-1. Just saying. But if you are lucky enough to rise up and do well, it is your duty to
send the elevator back down.
Or the cake. Until next Tuesday, when we have Zack Snyder, ladies and gentlemen, we have Zack Snyder on the podcast. Until then, thank you, Dom Lenoir.
Thank you, Giles Alderson.
Did you nearly forget?
Shit, what's his surname?
Who is this guy? Who's this idiot? Take care, everyone. Bye, Dom.
Bye, Giles.
Bye.